I'd like to call to order the March 28th meeting of the Shelby Township Planning Commission. Madam Secretary, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Dallo?
Here.
Ms. DeSico? Here. Ms. Casali? Here. Mr. Bernardi? Absent. Mr. Turner?
Here.
Mr. Apone? Absent. Mr. Vire?
Here.
Chairman Moffett, we have a quorum.
All right, thank you. First item is approve of the agenda.
So moved. Support.
Supported, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, if there are no corrections, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the March 14th.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Motion carries. Under correspondence, Mr. Nguyen, do you want to address, what's that? Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Green is going to address this one.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, under Michigan Planning Enabling Act, we have attached Ray Township's master plan for review, or a brief highlight of their master plan. As you know, our northeast corner, right at 26 and Hayes, shares a border with Ray Township. And just so everyone's on the same page, I'd just like to share their long-term land use plan for their southwest corner of 26 and Hayes. Currently, there are single-family homes there, and the long-use land use plan shows quite a juxtaposition in the future. As you can see with the attached map, they are showing commercial and multifamily residential. If you look at the map, it's on the bottom left-hand corner. Now, while that does represent quite a difference from what Shelby Township has in our current northeast corner under our SAD, our Special Assessment District, and water and sewer being brought to the northeast corner of Shelby Township, I think somewhere in the future we may find similarities at that corner.
Okay.
So at this point, we have no objections. We just want to pass on a recommendation to them that we reviewed their plan and offer no comments.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, this evening we have 4 items. The first, site plan number 16-09, Melissa Gardini is the petitioner here. Why don't you come on up, and then Mr. Nguyen's going to.
Mr. Chairman, this is a request for a Class A nonconforming use. It's on property. It's on Woodall, or on Woodall Drive. This one area, the township has the commercial zoning along Auburn Road extends into the neighborhood. And the problem with that is when you have these nonconforming sites, if this house burned down, they couldn't rebuild it. Or there's sometimes difficulty getting mortgage loans or insurance. So the neighbor was here a couple of months ago and received the Class A nonconforming status, which essentially keeps the property zone commercial, but in the unfortunate event that the house burned down, she could rebuild it. And, that's a nice process. There's no fee involved. It's just a matter of determining we still would want this as residential. Long term, I think what we'd want to do is go in and change the zoning map to more accurately reflect the zoning and the land use being, sort of similar. But this is a short-term process that gives the homeowner some relief and peace of mind. So we're strongly supportive of this request.
Okay. How about give me your name and your address?
Melissa Gardini, 46730 Woodall Road, Shelby Township, Michigan, 48317.
And you agree with Mr. Nguyen?
Yes, sir.
Anything to add?
No.
I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Turner.
I move to approve the Class A non-conforming use application for Melissa Gardini, 46730 Woodall Road, based on the following findings. The expansion of the existing single-family home on the site will not negatively impact any abutting land uses. The Class A designation would allow the applicant to rebuild this site if destroyed by fire or another natural disaster. There are no plans to develop the C2 zoned portion of the site for commercial purposes at this time, and the C2 zoning designation is not appropriate for this location, given the distance of this parcel to Auburn Road.
Support.
Okay, moved by Turner, support by Moore. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none. Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
Commissioner Vire? Yes. Commissioner Casali?
Yes.
Commissioner DeSico?
Yes.
Commissioner Dalu?
Yes.
Chair votes yes.
Mr. Chairman, one thing I wanted to point out, if your mortgage lender or somebody needs a letter documenting this, we'll be happy to provide it.
Well, I just bought the house, and it was not disclosed to me. I only found out from the neighbors going through it.
But if you need something of official nature supporting, Yeah, you'll get a copy of the minutes automatically, but if somebody needs a letter kind of documenting that, just let us know. We're happy to provide it.
But yeah, can I just get one for my records, just in case
Sure.
anything comes
That'd be
up,
fine.
or because they
We'll
keep
s-
selling my mortgage, you never know.
That'd be fine.
Okay, I appreciate that, thank
Could I
you.
get you to sign in, please? Thank you. Okay, next item is a rezoning petition for Greg Gagnon, 474124 Mile Road. This is a public hearing, so I'll ask the secretary to read the notice as published.
Charter Township of Shelby, notice of public hearing. Notice is hereby given that the Planning Commission for the Charter Township of Shelby, Macomb County, Michigan, has received a request for approval of the following amendment to the zoning map. Applicant Greg Gagnon, 52690 Blue Ridge Drive, Shelby Township, Michigan, 48316. Rezoning request from R1B, one family residential, and O1 professional office to O1 professional office. Location 4741 24 Mile Road, north side of 24 Mile Road, east of Shelby Road. Sidwell number 23-07-08-376-024. Legal description is as follows. Planning Commission will meet on Monday, March 28, 2016 at 7 p.m. in the Shelby Municipal Building, 52700 Van Dyke, Shelby Township, Michigan, 586-726-7243 for the purpose of holding a public hearing on the rezoning application. The application for rezoning, zoning ordinance text, and zoning map may be examined at the Planning and Zoning Department in the municipal building Monday through Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Written comments may be submitted to the Planning Commission at the above address prior to the hearing. Oral comments will be heard during the public hearing. This notice is provided pursuant to the requirements of Michigan Public Act 110 of 2006 as amended. Shelby Township Planning Commission, Jerome Moffett, Chair, Raquel Moore, Secretary, published March 13, 2016 in the source. 37 property owners, 9 utilities, and 2 applicants were notified by first-class mail on March 11, 2016.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kirk, did the publication meet all legal requirements?
Yes, it did.
Okay, thank you. Did we receive any correspondence on this request?
No, we did not, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Format for the public hearing will be as follows. The petitioner or representative will give a presentation stating the reasons for the rezoning. Commissioners may then ask questions of the petitioner. We'll then open up the floor to the public for any questions or comments, and then I'll finally allow the petitioner to make concluding remarks. At this time, I see petitioner's representatives at the,
Good evening.
can I get your name and address,
My
please?
name's Greg Gagnon, and I represent 4741 24 Mile Road, LLZ, to request a rezone of our property located at 4741 24 Mile Road. We got to remember that, so we made it easy, on the LLC side. My apologies, I don't have a great picture there, but I believe you do have some GIS photos showing the property maybe a little bit more detailed. The parcel is approximately 560 feet long by 144 feet deep. There's currently a 3-unit office building, which is approximately 5,100 square feet, and it's on the southern portion of the property. The building adjacent and just north of ours is 4734 24 Mile Road, and it's an office building similar to ours, and it's currently zoned O1. I wish I owned that property, but that's the wrong picture. Our building and parcel is zoned R1B, which is a non-conforming use for an office building. We purchased the property in June of 2015 on a short-term land contract. We're working with lenders now to refinance it, and we came across that the parcel is zoned R1B. So we need to get it conforming to get a loan on it. I think when the building was built in 1970, it probably slipped by and was allowed to be put on that property.
Okay, any questions for the petitioner? Now, did you say there was an office building to the north of, to the,
Mr. Chairman, there are 2 office buildings on there.
Right.
And the
So there's
zoning
not
line
3.
kind of crosses right in the middle of the second one, the northerly one.
okay. Oh,
Real creative pictures here.
Oh, I got you, okay, the northerly building on.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
High enough?
all right, I got it.
Okay. So there's two office buildings, but you can tell by the sign. The one in front is zoned O1. The one just to the north of that is the one we own, and the zoning is R1B. And you can see there's a large vacant parcel also that's involved. That's a R1B as well. So we'd like to get, obviously, the entire section zoned O1.
Do you have an intent? I mean, do you want, is your intent to build the whole site?
Possibly. If I finance it, I want to finance the whole site.
Okay.
Right now, it's non-conforming.
I have a question
Commissioner Gazali?
to the petitioner. So if I understand, the property that you purchased incorporates the second office building to the north, plus the whole other area that's R1B.
Yes.
At the time of purchase, you knew that the non-developed portion was R1B, but you did not know that the office building was,
No. Not even at the
Get that
time of
wrong.
purchase. I was brought in as kind of a last-minute partner. And when I found out, I was a little surprised.
oh, when
I
you
think
found
when you
out the
buy an
vacant land was
When you buy an
R1B.
office building, you're assuming that the township already has it zoned office
Okay, so
O1.
as we sit today, there's two requests, and one is to, the office building that's sitting there on an R1B zoning, that would be almost assumed with that should be O1 because it's there. It was,
Right.
but then we're also being requested to ask for the vacant parcel R1B to be rezoned as O1
Well,
also?
there's two parcels there. There's a parcel, the southerly parcel is zoned O1, and then where the second office building is, that the zoning line crosses the parcel. It's on the aerial photograph, it's not entirely accurate. So that building, the northerly building, is split. So part of the building is O1, part of it's R1B. So the logical thing to do here would be to have the zoning match the parcel boundaries. Now, that would give him the opportunity then, if he chose, to come in and submit a site plan for the balance of the site for some additional office buildings.
What does the green line represent on the,
Well, that's supposed to be the zoning line, but that should be a little bit further south.
oh,
That's where there's, I think, maybe a little confusion.
okay,
So the green line on the map that we have is
Should be shifted south a little bit.
okay.
It's what's really odd here is that not only is it non-conforming, but the zoning line cuts the building in half. If you look at the zoning map, which is one of the other ones, the one that has the blue shading on it, if you look really carefully, you can see that orange line cuts across just to the north of the property line of the parcel on 24 Mile Road. And Mr. Gagnon's property has a little bit of both zonings.
So the aerial map that we're shown doesn't show
Yeah.
the proper.
Yeah, the zoning line's not entirely accurate on that
All
one.
right. So the dashed line that kind of looks like that splits the two buildings should be. It's the parcel.
That's the property line. So if you shifted the green line down,
To half the building.
it'll be right in the middle of the building, which is really unusual. I was trying to look back to see what caused that. My first thought was, when we did zoning maps originally, they were on sheets of Mylar with tape lines. Sometimes those tape lines shift or were put in the wrong spot. It could have been a drafting error. I could have blamed the old draftsman, but that was our company that did those. So I'm blaming myself, 20 years ago. That wasn't the case. I went back even further and looked at some maps, and that line was as far as I could tell, the line was in that spot historically. So I don't know how it got there unless it was just a mistake.
Okay.
But, and Mr. Gagnon's inherited that mistake, and, the question is, is there a better, could you zone that in a way that makes some sense, that allows development, also protecting the neighbors? And I believe there's ways to do both.
When would we do that?
Well, when he came in, we're only dealing with the zoning now. The next step would be to submit a site plan. If you were to, submit a plan, then we'd evaluate it in relationship to setbacks and parking and screening and landscaping. And I'll offer a few other comments about that later in terms of how those concerns can be addressed. Because I'm sure people have concerns about, it's a vacant field, it's residential. How do we sort of provide some middle ground here? And I think there is.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Turner.
Mr. Gagnon, you own the northern building, but not the southern building. And that parking lot, that entrance there is really tight. I drove in there. There's not much room to turn around. Will you be able to get an easement access for ingress and egress to the back property to get through there?
Well, we'll have to work for that when we come up to that point.
Okay. Thank you.
Right now, my first step is getting the property zoned properly so I can get it financed.
I would
And then
agree.
the second request is if we decide to build on it, is to come back with that request. I mean, it's obviously the best use of that property is 01. I mean, you can't really put residential back there because of the entry off the parking lot. So it's sort of a mute issue.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thank you. This is the only public hearing the Planning Commission will hold on this rezoning request. Your remarks will be entered into the record for Township Board evaluation. The Planning Commission is a recommending body. The Township Board will take into consideration these comments when making the final decision on the rezoning. At this time, anybody that would like to come up and ask any questions, offer their opinion on this request are welcome. I would just need you to sign in with your name and address and just state it for the record.
Bill Pasco. I'm one of the units, one of the
Can I get your address?
homes on Mark
Can I
Drive,
get your address, sir?
53085 Mark.
Thank you.
I've been there for forever, prior to the time those two professional buildings were put up. It doesn't surprise me that the end of the zoning for the second building splits right in half of the building you're talking about, that the property line should have been further north, but it's not. I think what happened is the builder at that time got the okay for the first building and went ahead and put up the second one. That's the way things worked then. I'm going back in the late 50s, so honest to God, that's just the way things work. In any event, if you move that line, the current line, which is splitting the second building, move that line where it should be. I mean, you can't split the building in half. And if you move that line to whatever you decide to do, but now you get into a different proposal for the option of whether it should be R1B or professional building. I think what happens at that point, it narrows down the width of that whole area. It puts you right up against the school fence. You know, there's a school back there. And for as long as I've been there, there's a playground up against that fence. And invariably, when those kids get out there and play soccer, the ball gets kicked off into the field, which is a field right now. And under the proposal, it'll be a parking lot. And I think you're asking for trouble with a safety situation. So wherever you move that line to now, it would be appropriate to include that building. But after that, I guess we got to get together again.
Okay, thank you. Well, what they're requesting this evening is not to move, we're not moving the line. We're going to rezone that entire parcel. Anyone else wish to, please?
Hi, Hi, Deb Kwasinski, 53063 Mark Drive. I currently am directly behind the second building, the northern building. And I have a lot of concerns about hearing of a rezoning request without any understanding of what's going to be behind my property. When I bought my property, I knew what I was buying. There was an office building behind it, but there's also a whole space of open land. And then you have the school. So from a safety perspective and activity around that building, you know what to expect. I know that Mr. Gagnon said that it's the only logical use of the property. That's his opinion, because our opinion is we'd rather see the green. And if we start putting more office buildings back there, we're going to be hindering the aesthetics of the backyard as it is. Furthermore, I'm sorry that he inherited that mistake, but I would have assumed when you buy property, you do some investigation before you put your money out. With that said, that's kind of his issue, not mine, but my issue today is this rezoning request. Finally, I have concerns over additional development going on in the event he gets his rezoning request, in that the current development is not maintained as it is today. I don't know how long he's owned that facility, but the property owner that was there, the fences that we have to protect us between that building and our homes are dilapidated. There is picnic tables between the two buildings that now that it's getting warmer again attracts a lot of young kids. And if we're going to put even more buildings and then there's more spaces for them to hide even further away from the road, I think we're going to start attracting a lot more problems. I live there by myself, and I fear saying something negative to those children who I know are smoking pot, and I know they're drinking because I can smell it and see it. And you can call the police, but by the time you do that, they're gone. And if we're putting more buildings and more things back there that are hiding spots, because it is such a cramped area, I'm very, very concerned for just the safety of myself. So those are my comments.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else wish to comment?
Hi, my name is Corrine Ladd, and I live at 53245 Mark Drive. Right now, I'm the last parcel at the end of what he wants to buy. I was told back like years ago when I bought the house, wetlands behind me, nothing can be built back there. And I was also told that the parcel is not wide enough to put up a building and a parking lot and to be able to turn around and go back in and out all the way down there. So now I'm concerned that that they're saying it's okay. And also when he now changes the zoning to commercial, that worries me, especially with all those elementary kids that are running around outside and not knowing what's going to be going on. And I do believe in that back area also, there is an autistic wing, which I hope everybody knows that too, to kind of watch over those children. That's it.
Okay. Actually, what they're requesting is office, not commercial.
Pardon me?
They're requesting office, not commercial.
Okay.
My name is Richard Snyder. I've been a resident on Mark Drive for 56 years. I'm the second house off the corner, and everything my neighbors have said, I have to say it is true. So there's no sense in me repeating everything they've said.
Okay.
But I wish you would take this in consideration.
Okay. If you could sign in, please.
Hi, my name is David Carrier. I live on the corner of Mark Drive, 53021 Mark Drive. My concern is there'll be more office space with, next to my house, I have signs and everything that they keep on going over the sign limit and zoning and everything, and there'll be more signs, and I would be against that.
Anyone else? Did I get everybody? Okay.
Plus, what they said about the kids in the parking area too, with the schools there.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Mr. Nguyen?
I just want to offer just a couple of observations. The first is, when you have property with a split zoning pattern, it makes it really challenging. There's a lot of limitations, and we have to be cognizant of, allowing somebody to use their property too. And I don't know that we could make a case that property could be developed as zoned. I think that'd be a hard case to make. So that's the first thing. The second comment would be that the O1 district is a very restrictive district, not unlike single family in as much as you're only allowed, basically the only uses that are permitted by right without a special land use are professional offices. So you couldn't have a 7-Eleven back there or something else. It can only be a professional office. And generally, we've looked at offices being compatible with residential neighborhoods. I think the concern here, is one of the residents correctly noted, is the parcel is narrow. So there are some limitations as to, how a building would fit there. I would point out that there is whenever an office building abuts a single-family district, there's a 30-foot setback along that common side yard, and there's also a screening or greenbelt requirement. So if those buildings weren't there today and they're being rebuilt, they wouldn't look or probably be placed in the same location. There'd be screening. So some of the issues that the neighbors have had to endure over the years are issues that were not common today because they were built under an old zoning standard. So what we would require today is at a far higher standard, and that compatibility and that relationship is critical. So the green belt, they have a 15-foot required green belt that has to be densely landscaped, so you have some safeguards built in the ordinance that would protect against some of the concerns the neighbors had. I can appreciate, if you've looked at that vacant space for so many years, it'd be nice to continue to look at that. We need to try to provide some balance between preserving the neighborhood's integrity and allowing some reasonable development rights for this property. And we've concluded that we think this rezoning makes some sense, and we've offered some reasons to support it, understanding and respecting the comments that were made here tonight, because they're all very valid and reasonable.
Are there any setback, within the proximity to the schools, of, whether
No.
uses or? No,
that's zoned residential, so presumably they'd have the parking along that side. I think it's conceivable. It's unlikely the site could be developed without probably some variances. That they might have to adjust building location or do. That means that we have another public hearing, but it'd be the Board of Zoning Appeals. But again, we don't have that plan here, and unless they were to come in with a conditional rezoning showing the plan, we're dealing more abstractly with just the category of use, not a specific development plan.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Petitioner, if you want to, any concluding remarks? If you want to comment on anything that was raised earlier.
Thank you. I did take possession late in the year, and I did work on some of the wood decking, repainted it, repaired it. The wood fencing, we have it scheduled to be maintained, fixed, painted again before, as soon as spring breaks. The landscape company, I inherited them. They're gone. I have a new landscape company that's going to cut the grass more often because I felt they weren't cutting it soon enough. And I've increased the parking lot maintenance, as well as already gotten quotes on maintaining the parking lot and sealing it. The picnic table belongs to one of my tenants, and I will have a discussion with them. I go by the site quite often because I'm constantly checking it out. And I've never seen kids there, but I'll keep a watchful eye on it. And if necessary, I'll call the police and wait for them to come by. But the neighbors' concerns are my concerns too. And that's not the type of property owner I am. So I will definitely focus on that. At this point, I have no intention on building on that property. I'm just trying to get zoning to get the refinancing through. So their fears are pretty much unfounded at this point. If I did, it would be a building very similar to what's up there now. And just, it has to be conforming to the look. So, but at this point in time, I have no plans on doing that.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Turner.
Mr. Nguyen, one of the residents mentioned that there were wetlands on this property. Are you aware of that? I didn't see any when I was out there.
Yeah, I'm not aware of it. There may have been something at one time. It would, even if there were some on the back part of the site, they're so isolated and they're of such a size that it's unlikely that they would be regulated. I think they have to be either 5 acres or they have to be contiguous to a lake, river, or stream.
Okay. And Mr. Gagnon I'm glad he reiterated a point he made earlier, because I thought I heard him say he wasn't intending on building on this yet. His intent was to be able to fix this zoning so he could get the financing. So there's a good possibility he may not build on this property for quite some time. I have no idea how long that is. But certainly, as this is zoned right now, R1B, there is no way you can get access to that unless you drive through someone's property who lives on one of the nearby streets or through the school to get there. It really is landlocked as it currently exists as an R1B. So unifying the zoning for this does make sense from a planning perspective. I understand what all the residents are saying, and hopefully we can get some of these issues resolved. But I can see no reason why we wouldn't want to give him the ability to get the financing and then down the road, 3, 4, 5 years, however long it is, to be able to build something back there with the new restrictions we have in the ordinance around screening and development. So I can hear what the residents are saying, but I think building this as O1, which is a low-density office use, won't necessarily harm the residential. It's not commercial, it's O1, professional office. I really would have no problem with that, looking at that from this perspective. Thank you.
Okay. If there are no other questions, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Support.
Supported. Our decision this evening on this rezoning must be based on the following. The practicality of this rezoning request and the effect on the surrounding area, the owner's right to use his land, do current growth and development patterns warrant this rezoning, and is the proposed rezoning in accordance with the master plan? We may recommend approval, disapproval, or table to evaluate the information further. If there are no other questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to recommend approval to the Township Board of Trustees of rezoning petition number 3-16 for Gregory Gagnon for parcel number 23-07-08-376-024 to be rezoned from R1B Single Family Residential to O1 Professional Office for the following reasons. The residential portion of this parcel will not likely be developed as a residential use due to lack of access to a major road or stub street. The O1 zoning designation is a moderate use that will not have an adverse impact on the neighboring residential district. And the proposed O1 zoning creates continuity with the southern parcel, which is also zoned O1.
Support.
Okay, moved by Turner, support by DeSico. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none. Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner DeSico?
Yes.
Commissioner Dalu?
Yes.
Commissioner Casale?
No.
Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
Commissioner Vire?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Okay, next item is site plan number 16-13, Anthony Penna.
Good evening. Anthony Penna from Moore, Penna and Associates, appearing on behalf of the petitioner. My address is 38600 Van Dyke, Suite 300, Sterling Heights, Michigan. I am here on final site plan approval.
Right, Mr. I can kind of tee this up a little
Sure,
bit.
Mr. Nguyen.
This is that the site on Shelby Road, just south of Utica High, south of 21 Mile Road. Detached single-family homes. I think there are 30-some. 46 lots. We approved this site last year, I believe, and the site condominium approval process has 2 steps. The first is preliminary. We'll review the plans for consistency with all development standards, including the subdivision ordinance. And then the second phase is really our role is to, again, make sure there's no changes in the design, and 2, to make sure we have all the agency approvals, that anybody that needs to have, that has some jurisdiction over site improvements, have signed off. And we have all that. I'm still waiting for confirmation from our engineer that the engineering plans are approved. But you can see the documentation Mr. Penna has provided has largely satisfied all those comments. So it's really more of almost an administrative type of review now in terms of just validating all the levels of approval that are required have been adequately obtained. So we recommend approval.
Okay. Any questions? Entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the final condominium plans for Park Terrace condominiums, subject to the approval of the master deed and final engineering plans.
Support.
Moved by DeSico, support by Moore. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none. Commissioner DeSico.
Yes.
Commissioner Moore.
Yes.
Commissioner Dallow.
Yes.
Commissioner Casale.
Yes.
Commissioner Turner.
Yes.
Commissioner Vire.
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Good luck.
Thank you.
But could I get those plans back? Because since there's no changes, I can stamp and sign those. We don't have to go through another, I don't have to ask them for more plans.
And I'll look into the mess, but I'll find them.
Pick them up after me. Thank you.
Okay. And our fourth item this evening is site plan number 16-14, Anthony Finelli. Preliminary review. The petitioner is here.
Mr. Chairman and members of Planning Commission, it's really nice to be here in front of you guys, finally, with some projects.
Can I get your name and address, please?
Sure, it's Anthony Finelli, and it's 50466 Heatherwood Lane, Shelby Township. And tonight we're here on a preliminary site plan for property on 24 Mile Road. It's approximately 25 acres. That would, what we're proposing is 43 single-family detached condominiums under a PUD. Planning Commission has had the opportunity to review the plans, and I'm here to answer any of your comments or questions or.
Mr. why don't you give us your thoughts?
Sure. There's a couple other interesting components to the site. One is that you can see there's a large 3-acre wetland that occupies a portion of the site kind of proximate to the Harris Drain. It occupies a large portion of the northeast part of this site. They're also showing a road connection to Royal Forest to the south. This is a PUD, a planned unit development. So the first phase is really sort of a preliminary review just to determine project feasibility. And so the only recommendation we're making to the Township Board, if you determine to make one, would be to determine the project has merit and proceed to final approval. This was a very well-designed plan. The only two planning issues worth, I think, talking about are the lot size and lot frontage requirements. In the R1B, which is the way the property is zoned, the standard requirement is 90 feet of lot width, 14,400 square feet of lot area, and you can see the chart on the second page of our review does a comparison between what they're asking for in the zoning requirements. Mr. Finelli's proposing essentially a minimum of 80-foot wide lot and 12,400 square feet. So it's, I'm sorry, 12,400. There's averages, but that's what it averages out to. Some are smaller than that. The setbacks are basically the same except for the rear yard and one of the side yards. The overall density of development is less than what's allowed. The maximum allowable density is 3 units per acre. They're suggesting 1.71. That's why they're asking for the PUD approval. So basically, this gives you the flexibility of allowing a smaller lot. And it's really, that's the challenge here, is whether or not you feel the smaller lot sizes are applicable. They range in size. I mean, some are, I think, 10,000 was the smallest lot. Some are larger. I think the 12 is what we average it out to. They compensate for the lot sizes by the additional open space, and they've actually doubled the amount that would be required, even taking into account that some of it's not usable. So they've still maximized that. There are some additional comments we had that are part of this review that would only be applicable to the second phase. They're really not applicable to the first phase. We just want to point them out so that when they're preparing their final plans, they know what other details they need to address. So that's all we have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Looks like a nice development to me.
I'm
Your
excited.
reputation is great, and you do good projects. Although I'm just anticipating in a month or so, when you come back and we have a public hearing, we're going to have a whole room full of folks yelling at me for these 80-foot lots on Kings Park.
The trade-off was the 6 acres, though. We're leaving a big chunk of that property as open space, which is about 6 acres. So the product that ultimately will be built on these lots is going to be very comparable to what the surrounding neighborhood has already. So lot size, sometimes, I live on a big lot, I'm trying to downsize, so.
Mr. Chairman, I think what might be useful when Mr. Finelli resubmits for final is maybe showing footprints of this typical house on the lots, and then maybe some sample floor plans and elevations, because I think when you can compare those, it shows a level of compatibility. He borders Royal Forest to the south and to the east, and part of Royal Forest is zoned R1B and part zoned R1C. So, the lots are a little smaller than Royal Forest, but I think if you can show you're doing a comparable home, that's usually what people are looking at.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, and we're gearing up to do that. Once we get some approvals and we understand what direction we're going in, I think we would be prepared to exhibit that.
Okay. Good. Any other questions?
I do have a comment. It appears that if we have any complaints on the issue, it's going to be from the neighbors that back up to the proposed property line. And from looking at the map, the southernmost area, the 3 lots that are on the west side of the possible connecting road, those 3 lines are going to match up to three properties of Royal Forest. But if you go to lots 11 through 19, it looks like you have 2 neighbors or 2 residents that are there that are going to encompass 2 or 3 lots, 2 or 3 backyards, and that's where you might have problems. And it almost seems that stretch there that has 11 through 19, those lots seem to be the smallest ones, and maybe they could be increased. I'm sure you've thought about that, but
yeah, and those areas, so are backing up into a cul-de-sac already. So when you're into a cul-de-sac, those lots pie out. So we're going to have that anyhow. I mean, as far as property lines go. It's very hard to match those up because of where we're butting up to in that cul-de-sac
sure,
of the existing.
not 1-to-1, but
right.
maybe less than 3-to-1. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to conclude that this project has merit and the potential to meet the requirements of the zoning ordinance and authorize the submission of a final plan.
Support.
Okay, moved by DeSico, support by Dalu. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, Commissioner DeSico?
Yes.
Commissioner Dalu?
Yes.
Commissioner Casale?
Yes.
Moore?
Yes.
Commissioner Vire?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Chair votes yes.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
I look forward to it.
Planning Director's report.
Nothing to report, Mr. Chairman. No, I don't need that. I don't need that one back.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Dalu?
Are we ready to adjourn? Motion to adjourn?
Support.
Moved and supported, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.